I saw a young guy with
doing crazy things,
riding bareback, rearing up, really in this kind of free spirit with the horse.
So sometimes I was crying before I had to go ride, or
me
I was
too.
nervous, really.
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of funny because you would never expect it from you.
No, not of you either.
But I think, especially when I got off, it was just the feeling that I wanted to go again. She's very special to me. She really means everything to me. Every day when I see her, before I go to bed, for example, I have this whole ritual that I tell her, make sure that I'll see her tomorrow again, because she's everything to me.
You didn't practice at all for the show?
Well, the night before, because I was like, maybe it's good to have something in mind. So then I was just playing with her in the arena, and then I was like, okay, maybe I should have somewhat of an intro at least. So I come in and have at least something to do.
Mm-hmm.
And actually in the moment itself, I think I decided to bow to her instead of her bowing to the others.
Yeah, I remember.
Then I'm very happy that I got to do it. And the thing that touched me most as well was the reaction of the people. I never really realized that it touches people, that people get connected to her as well.
Yeah.
So that was very special to me, looking in the audience and people were crying. And I always think if you believe in your passion or you really go for your passion, then it will work out one way or another.
Yeah. G'day guys, welcome back to TRT the podcast. We have a very interesting guest today. An entrepreneurial guy, one of the most well-known faces on the equestrian internet. He is a rider, a trainer, a clinician, giving shows, clinics and performances all over the world. He is a writer, publishing a number of books including A Guide to Bitless Riding. He has his own brand of apparel and training equipment, a model and one of the #1 equestrian content creators on the internet, and a handsome guy to boot. Yes, Drent, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. That's quite the introduction. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, me too. From the beginning, when I saw you quite some years back, you were interesting for me. I saw a young guy there with
doing crazy things, riding bareback, rearing up, really in this kind of free spirit with the horse. But I could also see that you had actually taught the horse quite some things. You were doing some high degree of difficulty stuff, and that always catches my eye. But of course, not yet 30. No.
Not yet 30.
No.
And all of the success that you've had, where does that begin? Where have you come from for us to know the Jesse Drent that we see today? And of course, the horseman that we know today.
Well, that's a little bit, for me, it's still very strange that I get to do what I'm doing now. So I'm very grateful to work with the horses and call it my daily life. But when I started horse riding when I was 8 years old, just at the riding school. My family is not into horses at all. My sister was riding, also at the riding school, but she had to ask for a long time until she was allowed. And then my granddad actually took her every week. So then at one point my mom had a trial lesson because she was always complaining when my sister was tired after riding. So then my sister told her to try it herself, and then she couldn't walk for a week. So she learned her lesson. She was saying to
your sister, it can't be that hard.
Yeah, she's like, are you only sitting there? So why are you like tired? And then at the same time, I had my trial lesson. And then I remember I was sold from the very second. I don't know why. I never really thought about horses before, I think. Maybe I went with my sister a few times to just join, but never really had that feeling that I wanted to be riding or doing stuff with horses. But yeah, from the first moment, I was really couldn't think of anything else, couldn't talk about anything else. Everybody was going crazy from me not being able to stop. I remember even my friends at school said first we were friends, but then you had horses. They say that now still. But then when I was 12, I got my first pony, Andorra. And that's also, I think, where you saw the videos from. I still have her. She is already 30 now. Mm-hmm. And when I had her, she was really, really easy. She was an Arabian and I came from the riding school. So she was only easy for like half a year, I think. Yeah. And then she started to say no to everything that I wanted because I wasn't really listening. I just thought, okay, we have to go trot, canter and all that stuff. So then I fell off for the first time. Was still funny. And then the next time wasn't so funny anymore, and then not so funny. And then I started marking on the calendar when she was going to be in heat, because I thought that was going to be the problem.
Yeah.
But of course, I never wanted to sell her. So at one point I wasn't riding, I was only lunging or walking. And then I kind of discovered somebody online and did an internship where they did also some more tricks or groundwork. Still no idea what I was doing, but I was just trying around. I thought I'd do the Spanish walk. The only thing she was doing was scraping on the floor. And then I realized that wasn't it. So from there on, it kind of kept going.
Yeah.
And I really felt that brought us so much closer together, and it gave us so much more communication and fun that I kind of got obsessed with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was the thing when you talk about you had that one ride at the riding school? What was the feeling that then gave you that addiction to always just wanting to be talking about it and fascinated by it? Do you know the feeling? You remember what the feeling was?
Yeah, I think I still have the feeling every day, so it has never gone. And I don't know what it was, because I was very scared at the same time. So sometimes I was crying before I had to go ride, or
me
was
too.
nervous. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of funny, because you would never expect it from you.
No, and not of you either.
So I was crying. I remember the first time I had to go on a bigger horse, I was screaming to the guy that had to teach me. I said, I can't do it. I don't want to be on this horse.
Yeah.
But I think, especially when I got off, it was just the feeling that I wanted to go again.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how to explain it too good, but it was just,
Yeah.
it just felt like the right thing.
I think there's a lot of things in the sort of horse world today that's not sort of geared up to have young guys be interested in riding.
No.
You know, you look at it and there's a lot of the sort of matching pink gear with the bandages and the saddle pad and everything. And I think I was the same when I was young, sort of getting into the ponies, and Mum was working in the racing stable, and went to pony club, and I got a first pony and it bolted all the time. So I was crying. I was too scared to go into canter. And but I had that thing of at one moment realizing that I could teach the horse something. And that was sort of the same as if you a young guy and you had a dog, and you would show your mates, hey, sit and look at the trick you can do with the ball. And you kind of have this companionship and this kind of thing that you can feel you're able to teach something and have a conversation, but you're also able to show it to others.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that,
No, then it becomes fun. And it's true, because it's not really set up for guys, at least in the Netherlands. I think when you're younger, it's not like the most popular sport to do either.
Yeah.
I was also wearing always like girls' breeches, because otherwise it wouldn't fit. But I still
all
really
your
like
mates are playing football, and you're going at the weekends with tight pants on too.
Yes, exactly. If I do soccer or football, then I only get the ball in my face, and it was not my thing. So then at one point I took actually all my friends and the whole class to like a kids party. That's always after your birthday, and I took them all horse riding. Yeah. And they all really liked it, the guys even as well.
Yeah.
But it's not the most popular thing to do. And then especially I think when I started to, with my own horse, do more show jumping and competitions, then there's some more guys riding.
Yeah.
But they are more into like the more macho show jumping and stuff. So then when I started doing the tricks, I was still a little bit the crazy one out, I think. But I still, the teaching part of it was really fun, and to really feel like you understood each other, and it was not only a no anymore from the horse, and that was really nice.
Yeah. So of course we know your first love then, Annie, Andorra.
Yes, Annie. Yeah.
What is it to have a horse like that? What does a horse like that give you in your life, in your career till now? Because it's been like you said, you got her when you were young.
Yeah.
She was young, and you still have her now, and you achieved a lot of things together.
Yeah, so she's very special to me. She really means everything to me. Every day when I see her, before I go to bed, for example, I have this whole ritual that I tell her, make sure that I see her tomorrow again, because she's everything to me. And she taught me so much that I think she wasn't always the easiest, but she was really fair. She was only showing me what I shouldn't be doing. And she told me that I should really listen to it, and that you can get so much more. And I don't always give like the perfect show, or I don't always know what to do. But what I really learned from her is to really focus on the positive things with the horses, and to make them grow within themselves as well. And then you grow yourself too, I think. So to really make sure they open up and are not afraid to try or to show things. That's what I really learned from it. And that's what I do more now with my work still. If I give clinics or if I do the shows, you might see some more spectacular things elsewhere. But for me, it's just more important that the horse feels good.
Yeah.
And I think that's what also helped a lot, that people could recognize themselves in.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the biggest compliment I get is, oh, it's so nice to see that it's not perfect for you either.
Yeah.
So I'm like, thanks. I don't know how to take that, but no, that's the biggest
compliment.
thing. But yeah, it's nice. And I think that's kind of what now I do every day still with the horses, and try to show to people as well.
Yeah. And I saw your last show.
Which one?
With Andorra, the very last show.
Yeah.
And I actually also watched it also back when you released the video of it. And it is incredibly emotional.
Yeah.
It's, of course, very well. Max did a great job in producing it as well. And always music and things add to that. But I also watched it without any sound.
Okay, that's interesting.
So I, looking for your emotion, your connection, your energy, what the horse was thinking, what Andorra was saying, the realization through the episode. You sort of talk about it being the last, and you talk a little bit about the emotion, but to really also see that also on the horse was for me really an emotional episode.
Yeah.
What is it? So for you, what are the things leading up to that? It's the last one, being in the show, sharing that last interaction with her and the people, and being able to do the thing for the last time that you've been able to do together in front of people and in shows. And what about now, or directly after? How is the emotion of going through that? Yeah,
that's a good question, actually, because as I said before, I started doing it with her. We just did it for fun. Then we started with small shows, and then we did more and more, and there were more people connecting to it. So it all really started with her. Then I got my little pony macho as well, so he joined the group. But I've always had this thing with her that she is so special to me that I don't really want to let any other horse that close to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that with the shows as well. It was really our thing. And then she was getting older, and I wanted to do a final show with her. But for me, it was also hard because then it's kind of a end to it, because then you decide, okay, this is it. But not doing it didn't feel good either, because I did want to thank her for everything that she did. So then I wanted to do it, but then actually Corona happened, so it didn't happen. And then she was already, I don't know, late 20s. So I was like, I really hope she stays with me, because I do really want to do this for her.
Yeah.
So then 2 years later, she was still quite fit. Of course, she's older, but she's still very fit. And then I was like, okay, we have to do it this time on the horse event then. So I asked, and they were open for it. And every time in the car already, I was listening to music, and I had this one song. It's called like Angel by the Wings from Sia.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but that song just really reminded me of her. And I don't know, it just had a really special feeling to me. So I knew that was going to be the song already. But I was very emotional all the times before. I didn't practice anything. I was like, I can't do this. I just want to have it in the moment.
You didn't practice at all for the show?
Well, the night before. Because I was like, maybe it's good to have something in mind. So then I was just playing with her in the arena, and then I was like, okay, maybe I should have somewhat of an intro at least. So I come in and have at least something to do.
Mm-hmm.
But all before that, I didn't practice anything. And then, of course, I was crying already and very sad, but also very happy that we got to do it.
Yeah.
But before we entered the arena, I felt okay. But then I think 2 minutes before I already started crying, because you realize it's the last time that we have done this for so long. We've gone to like a lot of places, and there was always the most special days in the week, the most special days in the year, wherever you were together. And then it was very strange to know that was the last time.
Yeah.
And she hadn't come with me for a few years. It was nice to see she walked up the truck like nothing happened. She was in the stable, more peaceful, more energetic as well than all the others. And she entered the arena very proud and playing. She did her own thing. She did everything with her mind and some other things. And then actually in the moment itself, I think I decided to bow to her instead of her bowing to the others.
Yeah, I remember.
And I kind of came up in the moment, and I'm very happy that I got to do it. And the thing that touched me most as well, besides of course the feeling between us, was the reaction of the people.
Yeah.
So I never really realized that it touches people, that people get connected to her as well.
Yeah.
So that was very special to me, looking in the audience, and people were crying and they came up, and So it was very emotional, but after I felt really happy. like relieved that I got to do this for her, and it was a good end. She's still with me, of course, so that's good. So emotional, but also very happy and grateful.
Yeah. And it's a nice way, I think, to show gratitude to a horse, as you say, that's given so much and probably governed you in the direction you're still going now. And
no, with everything without her, I don't know what I would have been doing. Maybe just mucking out stables, which is also fun, but it's different than what I'm doing now. So I'm really grateful, and I really care for her.
I have a little bit the same with Zephyr, the bred kidding horse. He, of course, I rode in Aachen the first time, International Grand Prix with him, and of course, all the shows. He went also to many different places around the world. And he became also really the celebrity. And also then when I see sort of a farewell from a famous dressage horse, then I can also really identify with it. You know, you really feel that,
oh my gosh, yes.
Like that what they've been to. Like you say, you hadn't taken her to a show for a while, but then you get her out, she goes straight on the truck, she's relaxed at the show, and then all those sort of memories, highlight reels of all the things you've done together also come back.
Oh, definitely,
And then when you see a combination that's also in sport achieve those things, it's and just exactly what you say, then the people also, of course, connect with that because they realize what you've been through.
And I think it's so beautiful how the emotion from like how we all care for the horses then come together, also with all the other people around. I remember, I think Anki did it as well, like a farewell. And watching it online, I was also crying just because you can just feel it. And then I hadn't had the farewell with Andorra, but then I could just imagine it happening. So I was already preparing for probably 10 years for the moment to one day happen. But no, it's very special, and the same as with your horse, because I think you grow so close together. And I don't know how it was for you, but to be in the last time, to really be in the moment, that was what I really tried, and that really worked. For me, it didn't matter how it went, even if we just stood there. It was fine. It was just for her.
And I think with a lot of those special horses, there's a lot of firsts. Even
everything.
At the last show, that is the first.
That's true.
Of the last, you know? It's like you have that horse where you've been through all that, and then you do that final show and you share it with all the people that's also a first.
And it will never be the same, I think. I don't know. And that is maybe me blocking off for that to happen again. I don't know if it's either because I want it to be special with her or because you want to protect yourself for that deep kind of love feeling as well. But I mean, the first is always, it's never the same, I think, after.
And of course, I think we have so many different, no horse is the same. And of course, when you have a really special one, we sometimes think, that's nothing's going to be like that. But actually, no horse is like the other. And
I think you need to be open to letting them all in. I think.
No, exactly. So, what is there then? Something that maybe nobody knows about you that's special, that has also really influenced you and helped you to become successful in what you're doing?
That's a really good question. So about horses,
about anything. What is something that in your upbringing, from your childhood, or an influence of a mentor, or a certain natural gift you have from birth, or
not sure about that one, but maybe I need to find that one still. No, I think for me, I mean, that's not really a gift. I always used to skip school to go to the horses, but no, I was always at the horse. I wasn't really happy at school, for example, or I wasn't. I mean, I was quite social and stuff, but at one point I think it changed. I wasn't really happy in that moment to hang out with the people at school and to do all these things, and I always felt a bit like the strange one out, and I only wanted to be with the horses. So I had this man, because I had Andorra at the barn. It was I've had there for a very long time, maybe 10 or 12 years, I think. And also is this older man. He is still there around. He's in his 80s now, but he helped me with everything. His name is Henk, and we could fight as well because he's very stubborn, and I can also be very stubborn. And but he really helped me to let go of things, and to let go also with the training with the horses, instead of doing it the traditional way or feeling like I have to do it in a certain way. He was very supportive in that, and sometimes really made me question myself and think more why then I don't really know how to explain this well. But then to really be with the horse and just forget about everything else. So I think it's not really a clear answer to your question, but that is a big thing in my life.
Yeah, but it's funny how I was also didn't particularly like school. Spent a lot of time not at school when I should have been at school.
Yeah.
And then spending drawn more and more towards the passion.
Mm-hmm.
I went to university and followed up a study as a kind of backup, which is never going to eventuate.
No.
But I then was also drawn to the mentors, drawn to people that were going to actually understand and help me in the thing I wanted to do, which I felt through school nobody really understood. They were trying to teach me something I was totally not interested in.
No, exactly.
And then you find that one person that sort of, you go, that's what I want to do. And he understands. And then
you can just be yourself. That's already a big thing as well.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So even when I was doing like different things with the horses, of course, I had not really any clue what I was doing because I didn't really have any lessons in what I do now. Yeah. Because it's quite hard to find the right people for that as well. But still, it was just nice being able to try out things and to have somebody there as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And going from those early stages, I often have thoughts myself. And as I said to you, when I'm watching videos of certain people that interest me and I do weird things like listen without the sound and all that kind of stuff, I also have moments of my own where, and of course, we've been at different horse expos of things together, and I see you at the stand, and there's like a line out the door of all these young girls, or you're doing a meet and greet or a signing, and they're all screaming, and my lines are not generally as long as yours, and nobody's generally screaming.
Everybody comes to see you too.
And of course, I also have those moments sometimes in the middle of a show where you're in the main arena and you're in the arena lights, and you kind of have this moment where it's like time freezes just for a moment, and then you see your horse under those performance lights. Yeah. And then you kind of realize where you're standing and that there's all the other people, and then you snap back into doing your thing. Yeah. But you also have moments like that where you sometimes feel like, how did I get here? Like there's all these people, lining up and following me and
yes, especially I think for me that is sometimes a bit hard for me, that I think like there's so many people out there that probably know much more or are much more talented or can do it much better. So then I'm like it's a bit strange that I'm then standing there, and I'm very grateful for all these people coming because really, really grateful for such a long time as well. But that's sometimes a bit strange to me, and that of course can make you insecure too, but then you just have to stick to what you do and be there with your horse. But especially now I did a lot of the demonstrations, so talking about what you're doing. But recently I've gotten into the shows more with the music and the lights, and the first time was in Aachen, and everybody was doing this rehearsal, and I was thinking, why is everybody here without their horse practicing? And I just thought it was a bit ridiculous. So I had no experience in that. So I just went running in a passage myself, making fun of everything, not being serious. And then I was there with the live orchestra, and Matcha was running the other way. I was like, I think this is why people do a rehearsal. So then I was really also looking around. I was like, all these people practice for hours to make sure the song is going right, and I'm just here having fun with my pony. Yeah. But it is very special, especially with my other horse, Gaio. He is like an ex-bullfighting horse. He's really special, but also has a past, so it's not always easy. But then when he feels really proud, and you see the spotlight, and sometimes the spotlight is very bright, so I don't see anything else. Yeah. But that's really the moment that I actually enjoyed the most. Yeah. With the beautiful music and and then it's very surreal to be doing it. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of what I was always dreaming of and what I always wanted to do. Yeah. So then being there, and also even on events where you were working, that was strange for me that I was on the same event as you were. And with other people now also that doing the bigger shows, it's very special to me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think because you're very modest and you have this kind of, really kind nature and natural, pure connection to your horse, I think that also gives people, and the fact that you talk about it now, is that it gives people also the realization that everybody can do something amazing. You don't have to be famous or have achieved many accolades and had gold medals and represented your country and be this famous person, that you actually have something special because you're uniquely you and you have something to share that is of value. And I think the more people can bring that out in what they do with their horses, it creates flocks of people that come and want to see that and want to connect with that.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think it's just say like stay to yourself and your true self. And I always think if you believe in your passion or you really go for your passion, then it will work out one way or another.
Yeah. When you're in the performances, you just talked about the spotlight and everything. Are you then, what zone are you in then? Are you then, I also sometimes in the beginning when I had just the spotlight, you don't see the crowd, you don't see hardly sometimes where you're going. You have a feel and a sense for the horse. Are you then having a connection and realizing and creating the show, or does that create for you this sort of bubble where you're with the horse and you can really then go into the artistry of what you're creating? Or
I think it's more to be with the horse, but I have now 2 more set shows, and one is with Macho, and that's a bit more funny, so then I can kind of feel the audience a bit more. Because he does funny things as well, like throwing me up or kind of going with the whip, and then it's more of a it's not fully comedy because he also does some other like more cooler things. But then with the bullfighting horse, it is really about sharing that he comes from kind of doing all of that to now going, first we come in with the bitless bridle and then we take the bridle off and then we work in liberty, so then it's really more between us. So then I'm really trying to be just focusing on him and blending into one. But one time I had this, I think it was the first time actually we did this show, we had 2 on one day. First time went well, and when I finished riding I take him out of the arena, and then I go back in, so it looks kind of like the show is finished. But then he loves to run towards me when somebody lets go of him. And then I was standing in the arena and I just see him before it was meant to happen. He run like they couldn't hold him anymore because he gets so excited. And then he was running to backstage to the stable. So I was literally standing in the arena like this. I was like, what am I going to do now? So then I wasn't...
Not knowing if he's
so then I was running to the other exit because I was like, maybe I can stop him. And then the photographer in front of me screams, look behind you. So then he had turned around and he came running back in. So then I couldn't really focus anymore because I was in full panic. But
then,
no, normally I'm really
switch to him. This was meant to happen.
And nobody knew. I was like, what do you mean nobody knew? I was standing like this, not knowing what to do inside the arena. But that's kind of funny. No, but I usually just really blend in with the horses, and that's the most special feeling. Do
you have many inspirational people in that space for the shows, performances, people you looked at and said, oh, I really want to do that also one day? Or
well, to be honest, and not to, I always try to be positive, but the only thing that I sometimes struggle with the Liberty shows, because that's what I really like to do, is a lot of the Liberty is really good, but there's also Liberty when it's not fully Liberty, I think. So I think that's what I really like about your work. You really make sure your horse feels good. You're very helpful to your horse, but I think there are some Liberty acts. There's not many, but there are some, and then I don't always get too happy. But there's a few out there that are really good. It's just hard to get in touch with them to learn. But one of them is Alizé that you also work with. I think she's really, really good and also really good with the horses. Frédéric Pignon is, I think, really nice. And Sylvie Wilms, I don't know if you know. I've never met her. I've spoken to her online, but I think her horses always look quite happy. And I would really like to improve myself in that space.
I think it's a hard thing being in the show for a lot of Liberty people to stay, because it becomes your living for a lot of people. If you look at Lorenzo and Jean-Francois, and it's a huge production, and not to say that what they're doing is controversial or not good or whatever, but just to make the example of them being a living. And I would imagine, not that I've been in that position, but imagine that if you are training and doing a Liberty act and you want to be the headline, that there's kind of these 2 forces pulling you from doing it in a way where you really believe in an ethical way of training and teaching, and that your horses are experiencing it in a good way, and then having the pressure of continually being that number one that's chosen, and of course with internet and everything else, if you do a triple backflip and set your ass on fire, people are like, and then you've got to come up with
more,
the next thing, the more extreme thing, more horses, more action, more of everything. And then, of course, we get to show and trying to please the public, and then the balance between doing it in a way that is sort of good for the horse, and that we don't get too much into just controlling the horses without gear, calling it liberty.
No, but that's really how you sing it, and I think that's such a fine line that sometimes for me I'm also finding the balance, because I do want to be better, I do want to do good things, but then to see some horses that have to like perform, I should say, like many times, and still, because if you're standing there with 15 horses and they all decide to do something different, it's very difficult, I think. For me, I can get away with it because I don't think people expect for me to have a flawless show as well.
It's a high degree of difficulty. I mean, if you're seeing what these guys are doing, I mean, Lorenzo,
it's crazy.
Just to
it's very, very
he's
impressive.
born standing on a horse's back. So
literally.
I think you have to
the
be
mom
too.
gives birth standing on the horse, I think.
I get vertigo when I have to.
But I remember with Macho, I had to go to Paris, and then I already gave myself a lot of pressure that I was practicing so much. And the week before I had the demonstration, he didn't want to do anything anymore.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I don't know how I'm going to go about it, doing it over there. But it is a very fine line to, for me at least.
Little reminder,
So it's very impressive how they do it.
Yeah. I had that early on also, was doing shows together with Will Rogers.
Oh, yeah.
We had a big and little show, a big Belgian and a little Indian paint pony. It was sort of anything you can do, I can do better type show. And we had a few big events, and we were in Europe, and two young guys from Australia, out of the bush, who are we to be in Europe doing a show at a big event. And we also thought, this is serious. We've got to now really practice. And the horses were like, what the hell's going on? Like, why are they, and they were doing Spanish walk and coming to the show. They were like,
literally.
And then I remember then we sort of gave them a rest after the show. They'd had a week break or something. And we came back and, you just move your elbow and they were like this with the front leg. And you're like, oh, why didn't they do that when we were, and then you realize sometimes, sticking to what you know and the rhythm and the horses are comfortable, and if they know the job, sometimes it's our own insecurity that says we've got to get it right, otherwise
but that's really true. And it's really good to remind yourself of it. At least for me, I have to really remind myself of those things, because it is strange for me to be going to like the bigger shows still. So then what you said, then you start to really like not literally force it, but force it in your head and you want it to be good.
Too scripted. I think it's a very good approach to sometimes not have exactly a plan. To go, I'm also a little bit like that, but to hear when you said you have your final farewell and there's no routine, no practice, I think it's a good thing. And I think the comedy thing is a very, I was in the beginning remembering when I was young seeing Tommy Turvey. I don't know if you know Tommy. He was the guy that rode in and then his horse would stop and the saddle would swing around underneath.
Okay.
And you have to look.
I need to look it up.
Yeah, it's quite a, and it was just comical. There was a lot of, really brilliant horse training in it and trick training, and the horse. The Poker Joe was his horse, and he would be taking the blanket and lying down and doing all these kind of things, and that sort of entertainment factor, I think, is a lot of times a bit lost. It's the reason I think I was drawn a bit to the Brett Kidding deal. But it's sort of, there's a lot of, when you go inspirational, high degree of difficulty, sort of emotional shows. And I think that comedy actor where people can identify with something doesn't always have to go perfect. It sort of balances out the energy in a lot of those horse spaces.
And I think also what people like most is when a horse does their own thing sometimes. Where you have that, like sometimes I have, for example, with Macho, and then he walks away or he does something different, and that's the favorite part of the show. I'm like, well, I might as well stop training. But it's funny because then, it becomes real, I think. And that's with your Brett Kidding one. I mean, I've watched many of them and also online. I haven't watched it without sound yet. I might have to, but I think that's people's favorites. Will be interesting.
Are your horses just coming to you? Or are you specifically thinking, oh, I need a horse to create this show? Or if your horses just appeared?
Like the horse that I have for myself?
Yeah, Macho.
I never really went looking for a horse, to be honest. Matt always tells me, now next time you really have to go look for one, because they always just happen.
Yeah.
Like, of course, for Andorra, we were looking for a long time.
Mhm.
We one time cancelled going to her, and then we couldn't find another one because this one was actually in North Brabant. And then we ended up going, was the last one we were going to see, because we were my mom was like, we've watched so many, I had blisters on my on my bum because my sister actually fell off before, so she broke her shoulder, so she couldn't ride any. And then Macho was actually through my school, was a teacher. Macho was somewhat of a rescue because the people couldn't care for him anymore, and he was 1 year old. And I think otherwise he was going to go to the slaughter. So then they were like, if I wanted to have him. So then I had to convince my parents, give up the monthly money. And I said, because they were always worried that if something would happen to Andorra, what would happen to me? Yeah. So I said, but then I have another pony. So that way I could convince them. And then I wasn't really looking for another horse, but then somebody sent him to me, and he had like a special color. I don't know. And he was actually, when I went to see him, I wanted to have a big horse, dog. He was small.
And light.
Yeah, and quite aggressive and all of that. But I was like, oh, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
And then Gaio actually is from someone else. And we went to buy shop horses for her in Portugal. And then we found him. It didn't really work out. He's not the easiest to ride and stuff. So then at one point they asked me if I could just do some fun things with him. And then, he stuck with me.
Okay.
So, never really went horse shopping.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm the person for it. I also don't need to have these like really special, super expensive horses. I think for me, I like having a horse that is, I don't know, I'm more attracted to the horses that not per se have a problem, but I think I like more feeling the connection grow than really doing like a perfect show.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish I could do the other side more, but I think for me, I'm more focusing on like having them feel better.
Yeah.
I think.
So guys, I just wanted to interrupt for a moment to tell you about an amazing device we use here for the management and treatment of our horses and many other horses that come to the TRT stables. The Hofmag K8 is an electromagnetic therapy machine. It is a therapy for the treatment of bones, joint and soft tissue, which of course includes the muscles, really important for us. It's the next generation and leading machine in electromagnetic therapy. It works for a large range of treatments. It is accelerated healing by stimulating cells to kickstart the healing process. I use it on myself and of course all of my horses. If you want to find out more, go to hofmag.com/TRT. Say it again, hofmag.com/TRT. Now let's get back to the episode. So of course you have a lot of things going on. You have your own product company, Nalanta. You're training and riding your own horses, taking care of them every day, shows, clinics, performances. A lot of traveling, of course, for your Horseworld TV platform. Your normal content creation for your followers, your YouTube channel, and of course all your socials. And now you have this new massive life project, the building of an amazing new property together with Matt, and of course all the daily operations that come in between all that. Do you sometimes sort of go, what day is it? Is it sometimes chaotic for you, or do you have this in this very well-oiled machine? And
oh no, no, I don't think.
I was thinking, shit.
I am chaos all day. Always chaos. I'm very lucky. I have Kim that works with me as well, and she helps me structure everything a bit and make sure the things on the background keep going. But besides that, I'm always chaos. And I, like you also said before, you say like, oh, then I have another idea that comes up, and then the first idea isn't even finished or hasn't even started, and then something else happens, and it goes quick. Like now I was, for example, in Belgium for 4 days, then you already have, like, you're behind 4 days for everything at home. Next week I'm going also for a week to Equestrian, then you can't do things. So I like this lifestyle because I really think it's a lifestyle that one time I was actually going back from an event, but my car key, that's the chaos, was in the truck, and the truck was at home, so I had to pick up the key and go back, and it was 3 a.m. I think, and then they closed the parking, and I was stuck in the parking. So I was driving back around 4 a.m. I think at night, and I was like, I like this lifestyle. It's really like a lifestyle. It's like if I would have signed for this when I was younger and had to do school and all these things, I would have loved to be doing this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is difficult finding a good structure.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think the biggest thing that I still have to learn is that the horses come first.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, a lot of the other jobs go first, or the things that are not as important for what I should be focusing on. So that's really that I have to prioritize the horse training and
I have
this chaos.
Katja is very good at reminding me of that because she sees me sometimes riding and she sees I've got that look that my brain is on the next project or the next clinic or the next filming or the next online training program or and very much you have to of course try to organize that in a certain way. Do you have limits on yourself where you're like, okay, someone's calling me and I'm not able to get thoughts together, and that's an alarm bell to say I have to take a break, or I have to, make sure I get, or have you got planned things during the year where you go, now I'm getting my rest, or I'm going to go full gas until then, because I know then I can take it a bit easier or collect my thoughts, or?
Not really. I think usually when I turn off, which doesn't happen often, I don't feel the best. I don't know why. Sometimes I remember that I was really looking forward to a day off, and then I have the day off and I just have the worst day of the week. So I try to stay busy.
We are very similar in that.
Yeah, it's like I feel, I don't feel good.
No.
But yeah, it is sometimes important. I think I don't really go on holidays every now and then for maybe a day, but usually because we travel also for work so much. When you are home, you just want to kind of be home.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do have those days, of course, that everything becomes a lot. And then when somebody asks like a small thing, then you like react very dramatic, like it's overflowing and you can't do anything anymore.
I actually learned something from you with conversing between planning this podcast because I could feel sometimes I was like, oh shit, I have to get back to Jesse and make sure that this is okay and the time is good for him. And then I could feel you were in the same sort of energy state at some points. And then you were like, I read your message. I'll get back to you tonight. And I was like, oh, that's good. Shit, I should do that sometimes because, you sometimes get a WhatsApp and you look at it and then you're like, oh, I'll get back to it later. You sort of register it. And then, of course, it registers as read.
Yeah.
So then there comes 30 other WhatsApps and it goes down the list.
No.
And then you kind of forget it.
Yeah.
But it's
a hard thing, WhatsApp, isn't it?
And I think there's a psychological thing when someone sees that it's, and some people turn those notifications off. I'm not tech savvy, so if I read something, it goes blue.
Yeah.
And then there's a psychological thing where people are like, well, he's read my message and he hasn't bothered to even give me an answer,
Yeah. No, that's true. And my WhatsApp is terrible. I even have in my bio thinking WhatsApp, I'm terrible at replying, but it's nothing personal or something. Because I am, and sometimes I see it and then, I don't know, it just doesn't happen. So with you as well, yesterday I said, I'm very excited, even though my communication is terrible. But yeah, for me as well, if I then just let them know now I don't have the time to reply, or you're very busy, but then you just get back to them later. That gives myself already some peace in my mind as well.
Yeah.
And hopefully helps for the person too.
Yeah. And of course it is a lot. And if you're ambitious and, you're scheduling things, I do the same thing. Then I try to schedule the times I'm having a break or try to arrange things better. What are the things I really want to be doing? What are the things that give me energy instead of taking energy? And of course, from the outside, a lot of people can think, oh, they've got such a great life and, they're going here and they're going there. And then, they don't see the mad panic, losing the keys and these sorts of things in the background.
Yeah.
But also too, then I have the break and I think, well, I planned for this. And then I'm getting like almost nervous.
Yeah, or very anxious.
Yeah, anxious. Like I'm not doing the next thing. I should be. I'm getting behind. People are relying on me. I'm wasting time.
Yeah.
And then I heard a quote that somebody sent to me that I didn't know was somebody through social media who was following the online training or something. And the quote was, the time you waste is not wasted time. And I was like, oh, that's
That's a good one. Yeah.
something to think about when you're
Yeah.
sitting there. And of course, I have 2 young girls now, so there's a lot of times where I'm not doing the work and I'm sitting and my daughters are there playing or they're wanting to play with me, and then that comes into my mind.
And it must be also very like the special moments.
Yeah, and that just because you think you're not doing work, it doesn't mean it's wasted time.
And I think that's so hard that we are all, at least for me, I remember when I was younger as well, it was a good thing to work hard. I mean, I'm still very young, but that was something that I took pride in as well. And then you just keep going, and then you feel like if you're not doing that, then you're not doing good.
Yeah.
And then for you, I don't know if it's hard with having kids. I mean, I have 2 dogs. I already feel guilty leaving them, but it just gets hard because sometimes the things that really matter the most, you still choose the other things over.
Yeah.
Like sometimes stupid things at work go first when you also could have just been sitting at home and watch TV with your kids.
And I think there's that internal thing that when you do work really hard and you have, put in the effort to get to where you are, that sort of becomes your rhythm or your identity. And if you stop doing that, then you feel like you're either wasting the time that you've spent, or you're falling behind, or you're becoming not the person you're meant to be. And that's kind of back pressure.
No, that's very hard. That's sometimes I feel like I want to not slow down. I mean, even saying it already feels wrong. It already makes me like, but I did a lot of clinics, and this year for the first time, like last year, I decided not to do all the lessons every weekend anymore. It was very scary to me because I've been doing it for so long, and you feel like, oh, if you don't do it, what if everything else gets like worse and stuff, or you don't get to do all the fun things anymore. But sometimes it can give you a lot of making space also gives you space for other things.
Yeah, sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah, but not always easy.
So, of course, in the world of that we live in, let's just say that, I think there's a lot of people, specifically because we're in the horse world, probably we see it in the horse world, that a lot of people are sort of stuck in their social fantasy. They get a little bit disconnected from their personal reality, sort of getting into the stage of, controlling everything, playing a role for the outside world, which is, of course, the danger when creating content, that you are all the time trying to create a certain persona. I think that's also a little bit our culture, specifically in the dressage sport, that it's also to do with reputation and being that famous person. But the thing I like about your content specifically is that you're always yourself. You stay really genuine. And of course, I know you a little bit outside of the horse world, so I can see in your content, yes, it's actually just the same in the social media YouTube videos as he is in real life.
Yeah, well, thank you.
And is that something that you consciously think about, or is it something that was a process that you had to change through feeling moments of discomfort? Or
I mean, I think for me I think it's very hard not to be like just easing yourself. Of course, you have to learn to not think too much about like if you're yourself what people might think or not. But maybe I've tried once or twice where you get a tip, or you should be more this, or you should try to be more that. But then it works kind of for yourself. It just doesn't come out. So I think for me, it goes naturally, the same as doing my shows, my demonstrations. Sometimes I say things and then I'm like, oh, I don't know if I should have said that, but then I don't really mind. This last weekend I was screaming because the pony threw me up and I heard myself through the speakers. I was like, oh, maybe not the best way to be screaming like this here. But yeah, I think it's just a lot easier, and I mean, it's just real, and then you like it or you don't.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to look at it, because if you get into that getting lost in the social fantasy and you're not living in your personal reality and you lose connection with yourself, you get so far away from doing it for the right reasons that it's hard to keep up. And at the end, people start to see through it. And when you're not presenting or projecting your own personal self honestly, then it's not something that can last or something that can be really successful. And
no, exactly. And I never started doing all of this because I wanted to do what I'm doing now, for me, I just started doing, for example, social media because I didn't want to lose my videos that I made from Andorra, and I didn't know where to save them.
Yes.
So I just started putting them online, and then it kind of happened. So I still never now. I mean, I like doing it, but it's never that I have it for the reasons that I. Otherwise, I would have been way more consistent as well, and way more focused. I just share what I want to share because I like sharing it.
Yeah.
But I never have this pressure that I want to be this like social media person. Or, yeah.
It's refreshing to hear because I've of course talked to a lot of people that are in the social media game. You know, that an influencer and contracts and sponsors and 2 reels a day is €10,000, and you know, it's like they're really focused on you know, every day waking up, this is what I have to produce, I have to make something new and interesting, and the brain kind of goes around in this cycle. And I remember in the very early days I started also vlogging before it was kind of a thing. I was following Gary Vaynerchuk in the very early stages, the Gary V stuff, and he was sort of progressing and getting people to follow him. You know, with cameras, following everything he was doing and showing behind the scenes. And I was, you know, talking to Connie saying, I need someone full time that's going to follow me everywhere to all the international shows and also to the performances and the clinics. No piece of advice that I give in real life should, you know, that it should all be on camera because it could benefit somebody else. And I remember going to the shows and I had to focus on riding a Grand Prix, but my head was full with what am I going to film? What is going to be interesting? How am I going to do it? And I sort of had this struggle with, actually, I'm starting to live more in my mind in this social fantasy than in my personal reality. And I started to feel like I was missing reality. I was not actually paying attention to, you know, and especially when I was posting things myself, I'd like video it and I'd be sitting there with somebody. And then the next minute I'm writing the text, and then 15 minutes later you realize you've been away for that amount of time.
I know.
And it's
terrible.
It's
but also gives yourself, I think, a lot of stress because you don't want to be doing that. Like you want to be doing it, but not in that moment, for example. So that's really true. You can't be fully present. Of course, it is like a series. If you want to do it well, it does take a lot of effort and a lot of energy. So you need to take it serious, but I think you can choose to how you do it. Like, for example, how you were saying it, I've tried or had that idea not as big as you did, but trying sometimes, and then halfway through the filming I already stop because I'm like, well, it's not working for me like this. So it's quite hard to find a good balance.
You guys, you and Matt also seem to have in your content that you say, okay, now we've sort of maybe done a show or you know, we've had a certain event or we've done something and now we're going to review it or film it, and this is our film time, and now we're going to actually create really interesting content that people are interested in, where we're going to really give them the ins and outs and what went on, and from a really honest perspective. And then it, for me, from the outside, seems really organized. And
that's all Matt. It's nothing to do with me.
But is that how it goes then? It's not that you don't have this sort of struggle where you're trying to find, you know, how to film and moments to film and find your mind getting between, you know, creating content? Or can you really separate that between this is our personal life and this is our work? Of course, your work is also a bit your life. Is that then difficult sometimes? Or have you had to learn to get that better organized or know when to be in that phase and know when to be...
For me, I am really terrible at that. Even like to structure the videos, for example, is quite hard for me. And sometimes I already have a lot of stress before I started. But that's when you kind of start planning things. For me, if it goes naturally, it's right. And then it kind of flows. And then you focus on the video and then you finish that. But Matt is really good at coming with ideas, making a story, for example, now with our new home. Before that, he felt a bit more stuck. And then you see it all goes harder, but when it's the right thing and this is what you want to be sharing, then he's really good at structuring it, and I come a lot in his videos, so then I don't have to have the whole thing myself, and for him it's good because he really has this whole story going. But of course sometimes it's hard when, for example, we have fun trips, then it always needs to be filmed, or then it sometimes comes a bit in the way. But then I also need to realize we also get to do these fun things because we are sharing it and people are interested.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's really good at structuring it, and I think it's a real talent of his that he can do it. For me, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, to find a balance between then not doing it in moments when you should be present as well, it's you need to always talk about it.
Yeah. And do you have, this is another personal question from me, do you have moments where it just is not working, where you're like in front of the camera and
oh my gosh.
I could make sometimes like a full feature film of only bloopers, it's like
I wish it was bloopers. The other day I got in such a bad mood, I don't know why. It just switched. I wasn't feeling it wasn't going well, and then
it's hard to turn around, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, what's happening with my brain? Like, I know the state I need to be in.
Yeah.
And it's just the words are not coming, or when they do, they come out wrong. But
you never go into like a mood that you're like in a bad mood? I can't really imagine you in a bad mood, but do you ever have that, or is it more bloopers? Because I always see
it's both. Yeah. It's both.
Yeah, because the bloopers, I mean, that's always fun and nice, and then sometimes then it comes out quite chaotic maybe as well, but it can be fun, I think, where you have that energy going. But sometimes when I feel like I should film something, but it's not really the right time or not the right plan, and you then start to force it, then sometimes I stop halfway. And in the beginning I didn't, and then I could always feel it or see it back in the content, and then I always had that negative feeling with the content. So now I've learned to just let it go and do another one. Or
there's something about it kind of going against nature. There's sort of the universe is putting forces against you to tell you this is not. Now, sometimes the guys come and they say, oh, there's really a request for horses that are spooking at the mirror. Do you have a horse like that? No, well, I don't. If I did, it'd be a problem. But then you have to make a video and show an example of a horse that's not doing that.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, really difficult. And then you feel kind of like you're trying to explain it, but you're faking it. And you kind of like, well, if he was to do this.
Yes, exactly.
And then you have that internal frustration right away.
It's a kind of half thing, doing it because you have to do it or because you need to do it.
Yeah. And you want to give the value to the people, and you want to give it in a good way that they learn something and they really get something out of it.
Yeah.
And then, when it's not working, it's...
it's a hard balance sometimes to find, do I wait for the perfect thing, or do I just make the best of it in the moment? Or
Yeah. It is. I'm glad to hear it's a hard balance for you as well.
Yes.
I also find sometimes the really being aware during the day, when am I really on? When do I feel like I've taken the blue pill and my energy is up and, I can really perform? Because a lot of the time I would, specifically for the courses, like try to get all my horses done.
Mm-hmm.
And then say, okay, now we're not limited by time with the filming. If it goes a bit longer, it doesn't matter. But then I'd spend the whole morning and I'd work the horses, and then there was 20 million things that people were asking me because they knew I was filming and I couldn't be interrupted.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's things that come in between, and you've got like your company here and your people there, and then you got to film, and your head's like going.
Yeah, and they still rush. Yeah.
And now you've got to sit and try to get your thoughts together.
Yeah.
It's sometimes... So planning, that's why we're doing this podcast at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Nobody else is awake.
No, that's better. Nobody can bother
in between our schedules.
Yeah. No, it's hard.
So the filming for Horse World TV, you're of course working with many different types of horse people. And of course everybody has different ideas. Everybody's in horses for a different reason. And there's of course many different ways of doing things. And you're, of course, a horseman yourself, and you have your own philosophy and your own ways of training, and really a focus on, like you say, looking at the positive and trying to bring the positive and the fun into the horses. And, of course, in those moments, it's important to be not judgmental, and, to be able to be open about bringing information. Are there moments that are a little bit difficult sometimes where you think, oh, that's not really how I would go about it? Or are you able to go in there and say, let this person bring across, really, do you focus, try to not to be judgmental? And how do you bring that across then to the public?
Yeah, that's actually a good point, because more so recently, I am a little bit aware of things. I think for myself to voice what I think has gotten a bit more easy to me, and also really seeing for how things are, or seeing how things maybe shouldn't be, in my opinion. Then now I have changed a lot how, for example, who we film with, what we film, what you want to share. Because okay, if I'm sharing it, it's not. Restarted Horse World TV because I wanted to have one place where people could learn a lot about horses. First, I wanted to just do it from the kind of trick training that I do, but then I thought, okay, there's much more to share, so why not just get a lot of people on here?
Yeah, because you like that. It's really diverse. You're getting
Yes.
into some really interesting stuff that. Yeah, I was like, oh, does people do that with horses?
Yeah,
Like,
it's very interesting.
Yeah.
So, like, we filmed with you, which was really nice. We filmed with Dressers, Riders, Show Jumpers, Stables. We went to Finland now recently, which was freezing. But yeah, sometimes it's harder because now I think, okay, if I'm putting this out, it kind of says that I agree with this in a way. And I want to be open to like different kind of training methods. Some people also have a lot more experience in what they do. So, but I do want to stand behind what goes out now.
Mm-hmm.
Like at least 90%.
Yeah.
So that's sometimes a bit harder. So sometimes we stop. You have to. Otherwise, it's not easy. But yeah, you just have to.
Yeah.
So that I would have never done, I think, a year ago.
Yeah.
So now I just want to try to really make it a thing where it's more helping for like change.
And then do you say just, it's getting a bit cloudy. I think we should postpone the filming to another day, or like?
I think just say like, I don't think this is the right
Okay.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have to go back.
Yeah.
Then I get a WhatsApp again, and then then I have to reply 2 months later.
Yeah, and it's of course, just like you say, it's difficult for people to sort of, especially through social media channels and things.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if you're associated with something like 4 folds back, you're still, the one, and you agree 100%, and actually you taught him everything he knows, and because he's riding with that bit, that means you're also doing the same thing at home for 24 hours a day with your horses.
Yeah,
so
that's how it works.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing. But at the same time, I think you guys are creating, with the Horse World TV, it is really diverse, and I think it is interesting for people and important that they see a vast array of different equestrians in different sports, and not everybody's in it for the same reason, and it has to be open to be able to create unity in that, everybody has a different idea, everybody's doing something different, everyone has different.
We all try our best.
Exactly, and everybody makes mistakes. Nobody's doing everything perfect.
No, for sure.
And I think I think the platform you guys are running is very strong in also the way you guys come across, the way you're speaking about it. You guys are always very conscious of the other people, and also when I view the content, also conscious of the people that are viewing. You're really talking to the viewer.
Yeah, that's kind of what we try to make it more interactive.
Yeah, and I think that gives really the sense of unity. And I think there's so many things in the social media space now that is creating division. That the negative sort of side of things that creates suppression and a divide, or he's doing this, and no, we don't do that. And I think the unification is the important part about us as equestrians coming together to create a good ethical and moral practice that we all kind of go, well, that is really not good. And there's plenty of stuff that's going on that isn't. But there's also a lot of stuff.
Good things.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important thing to try to bring across. But when I see you guys and going to different places and the way you bring it across, I also think sometimes, that's maybe not always easy.
No.
There's some things, especially because you guys are both riding, you also have, your ways of doing things, and you try to do things in a really positive way, and you're very conscious about how your horses are feeling.
Yeah.
And, that just what you say about Andorra, that you tell her every morning with a kiss that I see you tomorrow. That's a very conscious thing about the actual connection you have.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So,
no, thank you. Yeah, it is. I think at least for myself, it's always a goal, even simple examples with the bitless and the bit riding. I think it was always, and that's the horse world in general, sometimes that it goes against each other. when two opposites can also kind of be together, and that's what we hope to do with the platform is people can take things from each other and you can make the best of it, and in that way it can all grow. I think that is the nicest way of doing it, like to make sure our horses have the best life and the best training. And
no, I think it's great. So of course, negative comments. We just mentioned, we both know, as many people are in horses for different reasons, and also people are on social media for different reasons.
Yeah.
But I've seen you openly sort of address silly or negative comments that you've received from a previous video directly in the next one. I remember one. It was a little while back. You and Matt were sitting in the stable, and you had 2 cups.
Oh yeah, the cup.
And I was like, what's going on here? Yeah, he does have 2 cups, and even Matt was a little bit confused. But is that something that that's how you approach it, or is there been moments where, you've sort of did you get to a point ever where you're like, I'm done with this? Ben er klaar mee.
Yeah, ik ben er klaar mee, done. That comment was because I like to hold a cup, and then I kind of liked it during that podcast setup. And then somebody was complaining about me holding a cup. I was like, that's a little bit extreme. So I said, next time I come with 2 cups. But it kind of depends. I think it gets harder when people say something that really isn't true, and that kind of affects you. For example, if they say how terrible you would be to your horses or something like that, then at least I hope that's really not true. And I know it's not true. So then that kind of can affect you. But normally I think I try to focus on the better things. And everybody can have their opinion. And if their opinion is so kind of stupid that it's like doesn't make sense at all, then it's not worth the energy. Easy to say. It's not always easy, but usually we are very lucky actually. We don't get a lot, knock on everything, but we don't get a lot of negativity.
And I think if you come across in the way you guys do, where you're bringing everything from a very honest perspective and really truly from yourselves, I think you also start to draw those kind of people. Because there's plenty of spaces and places where people are there just to fill a void or to give themselves a certain sense of belonging or, significance because it's lacking. And then, social media can also fill those gaps for people. And of course, a lot of people have certain ways of going about things that they think is positive, but from a negative perspective that the rest of the world is suffering from, and actually their end goal is not being achieved with the strategies that they're using.
No.
And again, everybody across the world, when you're as big as you guys are and you have as many followers as you guys have in different countries, in different cultures, from different backgrounds, who are doing different things with horses, different levels of knowledge, and seeing things sometimes in a glimpse. I often go through that exact explanation in my head rather than sometimes you read a comment and you think, they should, like you expect that they know you, like that it's your relative, and now they're giving you, how can they say that about I'm totally not, this is not my, and then you have to sort of think, well, they're so far removed from it that actually they don't really have the right to make that comment at all because they don't really have any idea what's going on between you and your horses or whatever it is that you're showing.
No, exactly. And it's kind of, I mean, of course things can affect us, but I think it's kind of up to us how much they affect us. Matt is actually really good. He just, when somebody is a bit nasty, he blocks them. I never do it, but he's like, this is my space here, and I only want not that he can't handle criticism because that's something different, but somebody
it's not
that's
constructive.
Just exactly. Or he has some words that he blocks that people can't use, or so that's also a good way of doing it if you are struggling with kind of a lot of negativity. But no, as you say, it's mostly like that, and it's good to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. So where does your heart really sit? With your brand? Training your horses, giving shows, creating content. What is your real passion?
Well, I think the horses will always come first for me. So either training at home, but also the shows is really, for me, I think that's kind of what I live for. That's where I really blossom. That's where I have all the energy. Sometimes during the day I can feel all sorts of things. But when I'm at the show, also knock, I usually just have a lot of energy and I can literally keep going for like 24 hours nonstop. And that's really what I like. Plus, I really like having the shop because I believe in the builder's bridle, the products, and hearing the experience of the people. But no, to be with the horses at the shows is
and so if someone was to come in and take away everything that you have, the horses and the brand and the products and the shows and the social media following and everything that you have, what was the you were standing there now alone in isolation.
It's terrible.
What would be the first thing you would search out for first?
Yeah, the horses for sure. Yeah. No, of course, without the horses, it's no, that's the main.
And of course, that's
even if I don't do anything with them, it's
And of course, that's the bit that's where it started. From the beginning.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's interesting that that's of course where I think of that often, also to give relevance to how important are each of the things that I'm doing, and also we talked about before about how what we put first, what's important to us, meaning the horses, but of course a lot of things come in front of that. And I often sort of think to myself, well,
that's a good point.
Yeah, if someone took everything away, how, and I would have that reflex reaction like you did, like, oh, terrible. Oh my God, like my life's
like this is turning dark real quick.
That's right. But then it sort of gives perspective of, would that really matter that much? I could probably rebuild it again. You know,
that's a really good thing. I think this is something that's going to stick with me, to be honest, because I do get stressed quite often about these thoughts. So it's nice having sometimes certain sentences in your head, and I think this can definitely be one of them for me. That's a really good point.
And now, of course, you have this big life changing journey, development, you know, the building of the property that you guys have now. How is that for you?
It's really exciting. It's still very surreal. We had our own place. I think we got it maybe 6 years ago or something, and then we sold it 1.5 years ago, and we had there 5 stables, and now we have found our new place that is like a house. We have 15 hectares of land, and there's nothing on it yet. So we have the house, and we have somewhat of a barn, but we don't have any stables. We don't have indoor, nothing. So it's a long process, and it's still also one of these things. I think for me, I'm really grateful, but it's also kind of scary for what you just said. What if nothing works out? Then what if you lose everything? So that sometimes takes away of the fun part, but it's really a dream, and it's a really special place. So Matt is also, again, really good at organizing everything. So I'm kind of just there saying yes and no, what I like or don't like.
Has he got a place for his mower yet?
It's now in the barn.
Okay.
But he also has this like
own stable.
Yesterday he was mowing. I was like, I don't think the grass is growing yet, but he was still mowing. But we also have these like automatic robot ones now that can do squares and stuff like that. And I even got approached by a brand, and I now have my own one. So I'm gonna try to not get that stolen.
Nice.
But yeah, he is mowing, and there's a lot of grass to mow now. So No, but it is very special, and it's really exciting to see that we can really hopefully make it into our own little kind of paradise. And good for the horses and for ourselves. And every day waking up there, because we just moved in, it's still a dream. And spring is still to come.
That's the nice thing, the changing of the seasons. And I think it's such an interesting process, of course, going through it myself, doing some things really fast, and then afterwards thinking, maybe that was... You know, we're trying to get it done, thinking, oh, we have to get to the end. I want this to be finished. And then you get there, and then you think, oh, now I have it. There's always the next thing. And now some things in the Netherlands take some time with beginning, licenses and all kinds of organizations.
We just got another extension.
So. It forces things to take a little bit of time. But I think that's all a really nice process, because then you have time to think. Sometimes when I think about the paddocks we built, we just looked at earlier, if I did that right away in one go, it would be totally different to now.
Yeah,
You know,
and then you would regret it, maybe. Yeah.
step by step. But
Yeah.
I think what's also really nice, and I can imagine for you guys, is documenting that.
Oh, yeah.
Just like you said before about why you started social media, where I put the videos. It's such a nice thing then to see where you started and where it ends up. You know,
Yeah.
looking back and seeing that you actually, documented what you're building, what you're
Yeah.
creating, seeing where you
That's really
came
nice.
from, and
Yeah.
yeah,
No, for sure. Even like watching back at the old house, for example, and now going here, to really focus on the whole kind of the process and the steps, and even seeing the changes now already. I think it's really nice to be able to look back at it.
yeah,
And also taking it slow is something that I'm really trying to focus on now too, instead of like getting things done, because you can only really do it once, at least the first time.
yeah,
And for the paddocks as well, we're first doing it now in like a easier, cheaper way, because then
Mhm.
we can still move things around, and
Yeah.
nothing has to be done in like a year or so.
Yeah.
But putting it online, and the feedback from all the people has also been super nice. So
Yeah.
that's also
Yeah.
because the house is a little bit bigger, so I was a little bit worried, to be honest, too. Like a
Yeah.
bit embarrassed. Not that the house, for me, I was just only, I mean, I really love the house, but for me, I was just happy how much land there was and that the horses could live outside. My favorite thing is to walk around the property in the forest part and the grass. But yeah, that was a little bit scary for me to put that out there, but everybody has been quite sweet about it.
Yeah, good. And what do you feel when you watch it back to yourself? Because I think if you think years back, you know, people had a sense of pride by having one photo of the house. Or if you bought a sort of heritage style house, or a house that had some history, and you had the photos of the years of the other people that were living in it and everything, it sort of gave that sense of pride. How does it feel like to have it? You go on YouTube and you have a nice drone shot and you see how
Crazy,
beautiful the space is.
Yeah, it's really, for me, I still can't really believe it. I used to always live in the center and never had my horses at home. So then when I had my horses at home, that was already a real dream.
Yeah.
And the first time we went to see this house, even before I entered the property, I just said no to Matt. I was like, I don't think this is it. Not because I didn't like it, but just because I just thought it was too much.
Yeah.
Like too good to be true as well. So then you kind of have that thing. But even before we moved in, I was watching the video from the Seals video, for example. Every single night I was watching it. I can still hear the song in my mind. So then to change it into us living there and seeing that video, it is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's something in your life where you go, we build things for ourselves, companies and brands and following and our knowledge and ourselves as a person, but actually building a structure, a thing, a place that becomes your home is also something in your life. I think that's it's something you also leave behind as a part of your history. We built this. We made, of course, the house like mine was already standing, but you contribute to it. You live there. You're part of your life is being recorded there, literally.
Yeah, literally.
And I think it's I also think about it when I'm building. Sometimes I also get the voices from outside that say, "Oh, why would you build so big?" Or "Why would you, do it like this?" And then I think actually that has no relevance of where you want to take it and what you want to leave. And at the end, this was the place from these guys that did amazing things, and this is where they had their horses and the stable, and
that's very true.
There's all those kind of stories. So I often think about that when I'm building something. What is the story that I want to go with this that I'm making after, maybe when I'm...
That's very interesting too.
Yeah.
That's what I really like about you, because as I said to you, I think before, that I always saw you with these like funny things as well. But you always have like, you're very sensitive, I think, and you have like a lot of depth to you. So I really like how you think about these things, because that's also what we try to do now with the house. It's an older house. It's from 1858, I think. So there is a lot of history, but what we're trying to build now is to really respect all the history still, but also make sure it can go on in the future and after us and all of that.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So, of course, from the very beginning, when I saw you with the horses in the early videos, and especially now, I see when you're working with your horses that it's not just about working in a friendly way and having fun and having a joke. I really feel and see a really unique and pure connection that you have with the horses from the beginning.
Well,
And it's
thank you.
something that's not, it's also, I get a sense that it's a bit untouchable, that nobody could come in and just say, hey, yes, I think you should do this, this, and this, and you're going to straight away start trying to do what they're saying. And I think also this creates a really special connection with your horses on a daily basis, but also especially in your shows. And I think that comes across really strong. And I think it's also really unique because I think a lot of horsemen get a little bit caught up in what we talked about, who trying to make a show and trying to create a certain image that we want to portray. So I think it's a really beautiful thing what you have going with your horses.
Nice.
What is it from your perspective that you want to share with people or show to people, and what is it that you maybe, which I know we both don't think about that much, but what is it that you want for yourself out of working with your horses in the way that you are?
So I think, thank you for saying that first, because I think I often also wonder, like, how do people kind of see it? For example, you are like very good with your horses and other people's horses, so sometimes I get very nervous when people like you would be watching or something. I'm like, oh, now I'm questioning everything that I do. But changing it is, I've tried, but it just never, you can learn, but really changing the whole thing is like, it just doesn't work. And you just get the opposite reaction. And I think I always try with my horses that they are good enough wherever how they are and whatever they feel in the moment and what they are able to give or to not give, and just to make the best of it. And I think that is something that I maybe need to sometimes give myself more as well, because you do put on a lot of pressure, and I have more of a negative view towards myself. I don't know, maybe everybody has that. But sometimes I was talking to, I think it was my therapist. She said, how, if you would talk to yourself, how you talk to your horses, how would you talk to yourself right now? And I think that really gave me, I haven't really used it ever since.
That's an interesting one.
It is a good, it was really when she said, I was like, oh, that it really makes it very different.
Yeah.
So in these moments when you are very hard on yourself, or you think nothing is good enough, or those things, to really, how would I make my horse feel in that moment? It's very different.
Yeah.
So that's something that I try, or should try, I think.
Yeah.
If I want to take some stuff to myself. And what I really like is that horses are really in the moment. I think they can really remember things as well, because I think some people think more, they only react to what happens then. But of course, when they know people, a person that has been really good to them or not so good, I think they definitely know.
Mm-hmm.
But they can also really be very, it's black and white, but also be very fair in the moment.
Yeah.
And that's something that I really admire too.
Yeah. And that's also what you want your intention to bring to the people when they see a show? Or is it more so the entertainment, or you want them to have fun, or you want them, is there that, because I feel from you that there's also a lot of things that are much deeper than you first show in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I get a sense from that when I see the shows and everything. There's a strong sense of something more meaningful in what you're doing, even though the show there's a lot of fun elements, and it makes you laugh and smile, and
sometimes I try to cover up things, I think, a bit in a jokey way.
Yeah.
In a way, sometimes, it is really true for how I feel in the moment, and I like to have fun, and I think it's nice to bring people joy and to have fun with our horses and not to take everything too serious.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get so stuck in the serious parts that we forget to have fun with our horses or ourselves.
Yeah.
But there also is a part that I feel like the more serious I become, or the more I stand for what I want, the more can go wrong as well, because I feel like I like what I do, but I can still learn so much. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I have the right to fully speak onto what I believe or think yet, so that I feel like I have to deserve more. But the deepest meaning for me is always to just make sure that people kind of love what they do. They are free to be themselves. They love the horses can be themselves. And to make that change, I think, instead of only expecting things from others. Yeah, I think
it's a really...
I'm still searching.
But I think it's a really important point to make and a strong message to send to especially in our horse world.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a lot of the time where we lose the connection of, and also with the way you're working with the horses. In a lot of the welfare conferences and seminars and summits now, I start often talking about, because everyone's coming with the baggage of what they do and what profession they're in and what their values are and what they think is good and not good. And I often start with the story of people imagining what their first interaction was, if they can remember go back to the first time you touched a horse.
Yeah.
And what emotions and thoughts did that bring up? How did you feel? What was important to you? And I remember going into the racing stable by my mother and being not much smaller than I am now, reaching up and hoping that he'd let me touch him, and it's those...
And that's the first thing you remember.
Yeah. I hoped that he would want to let me touch him, that he would make contact and I could feel the skin and I could understand what he was thinking and what he was feeling, and that we could be okay, that he didn't think that I was scary or would run away or that I was good enough.
Yeah.
And I think as we go along, we lose connection to that.
Yeah.
We lose those initial ideas of why we were in horses to begin with.
Yeah.
We get into...
Yeah, that's a very big thing to remember, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and we get into being, the shifty horse dealer or the, the farrier or the vet or it becomes a career or a way of living, and then we forget the essence of why we became horse people to begin with.
Yes, and I think for me at one point I was working at stables a lot and training horses and doing all that, which was already a dream because I never thought I could work in horses to begin with, but then it became more of a factory feeling, like the whole special feeling went away.
Yeah.
And then you had to go to your own horses and you're like, oh, it was kind of a number. So I'm really happy that now I can do it in this other way, that I can really treasure that feeling from the beginning, that really what really matters to you, and that passion feeling and that grateful feeling towards the horse and how special they are.
Yeah.
What you said, I think it's very nice. You had it from the beginning already, this like really nice question to the horse that you wanted them to touch you.
Yeah.
And could these people also reply to their first memory, or was
it? It's sort of always an open setting, and then they have to imagine it. But you see everybody going into and you get a lot of comments afterwards. I didn't think about that for a long time.
Yeah.
These are people that are really professionals in the industry, and it's the thing that keeps us attached and connected to everybody else. They're all in it for the same reason in the beginning, often.
Yeah.
So it's
and that's what I have, I think, with Andorra very strongly, because it is so special for me and I know the whole process, and it still feels very new to me. Even though I've had her since 2008, it still kind of feels new. Yeah. So I think that's just how special it is, and to have that feeling very strongly with me is what makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if you can keep that for the rest of your life,
then I'm grateful and happy.
All right, mate. I really appreciate you being here. I think you guys do an amazing job with what you're providing, the value you're giving, and the way you bring it across. And I think you're going to have a very successful career and life ahead of you. But thank you for being here, and I hope maybe you'll come again.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for everything that you do as well.
Cheers.
Thank you.
So guys, this was it. I think you know where to find Jesse on all his channels. Thank you guys for being here. We'll see you in the next one. Be kind to your horses.